Back, my name is Chris Sachinelli. I get to build, buy, and sell simple profit businesses every single day. And today we are doing another exit ready deal review where my team over at simplebroker.ai reviews thousands of deals every single week so that you don't have to. And then we surface the best of the top through these weekly deal reviews. In today's deal review, say that 3 times fast, we're going to be getting into a health and wellness business based out of Boston, Massachusetts. This is a specialty business, right? So this may not be a great choice for somebody who wants to be a passive owner, but maybe somebody who already has this business potential in terms of an acquisition to roll up, or perhaps you're working in the field and you'd like the opportunity to potentially own in the field, right? That's typically the best types of buyers for this. Unless you're a strategic buyer and you have capital and you also have strategic human capital or talent that you want to come in and partner with. That's another way that we've seen these deals get successfully done in the past. This business was established in 2010, so it's been around for a while. That makes us feel great when we see these longer standing businesses. It's got $4 million in annual revenue, so the revenue is indicative of the age here. Its EBITDA is $800,000. What I'd like to know is what the seller discretionary earnings are so that we can normalize it and get to more of a market multiple so we can benchmark this $4 million price. We'll do that in a couple of slides here. It's 30 full-time employees, which feels really, really great because as we know, in these transitioning businesses, there's a ton of risk when it comes to the people component, right? We need the right people in the right roles, doing the right things at the right time to keep this business moving in the right direction. And the larger the head count, the lower the overall risk when it comes to risk of transition in the business. In terms of services offered, again, it's a professional service. So they're doing physical therapy, wellness programs, nutritional counseling, corporate wellness solutions. It's a specialized talent pool that you'd be recruiting from to be able to place and continue to provide excellent service to this. And then in terms of a background, ideally, you have that background going into this business, although you could always learn everything or partner with the right people, like we were mentioning earlier. In terms of existing clients, one of the 9 C's of customer retention, lifetime value is contracts. And we love to see contracts with corporate clients because those corporate contracts are typically long-term, they're defensible, and they typically renew pretty nicely as long as you service appropriately. And they have 20 or so corporate clients, apparently. I'd like to see that. In terms of growth opportunities, there's always opportunity to grow, right? You could always hit that more button and do more of something new, hopefully do it a little bit better, right? They identify a couple of opportunities to be able to grow. I would just want to make sure you can materialize what matters and actually turn these opportunities into a reality. So as you're thinking through and diligencing, ask yourself that. And then reasons to sell, surprising to me. We've been seeing a lot of aged out business owners entering the market in this space, and especially established in 2010 with these revenue numbers. I would think it would be our typical aged out silver tsunami business owner. However, this is saying that they're looking to pursue something new. So I'm like, well, what is that new thing? And that's something that actually is a flag that goes up in my head when I'm thinking about this. And it's going to impact things. Typically, we'll see aged out owners supporting the transition maybe a little bit better. Also inclusive in this, what did they find that's new? That's a better opportunity than what's here. So I start to think about those types of things. Let's get into a quick financial review of this from a financial perspective. Asking price wise, they're looking for $5 million currently. That gross revenue, like we mentioned before, is $4 million. Cash flow is $800,000. They have $100,000 worth of inventory. I don't know what that means. I'm curious in terms of what the inventory is. Furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, FF&E, is $250,000. That's actually not too bad in terms of the type of business this is, this age and stage of the business as well. And the real estate is leased, 3-year renewable lease, so actually some flexibility in that. And we've been seeing some of these lease prices coming down, so maybe an opportunity to renegotiate for a little bit of a savings, who knows. From a normalization perspective of these financials, what we would like to do is be able to get to a normalized benchmark around SDE. So the first step that we need to follow is to actually calculate what the SDE is. So we go to the SIM and confidential information memorandum that's provided to us by the broker of this deal. And we're looking for things like the owner's salary, right? Owner's perks, non-recurring expenses, the add backs, right? So we're looking for things that are not necessarily something that would be a normalized expense of the business. And we're looking to normalize it in terms of adding it back in for adjustments. So that way we can take that EBITDA number and actually, benchmark it based off of what it would look like if we were to take over this business. For example, the owner's salary, well, that owner is no longer, receiving that salary. So that gets flowed to the bottom line. We either pay ourselves a salary or we hire an operator, but we need to know what that looks like. Same with any owner perks, right? In that situation, it's $180,000 that gets added to the bottom line. And then all of these non-recurring expenses, which typically when a business is getting ready to sell, you'll actually be able to see and identify quite a few of those legal expenses, et cetera, that show up. And you want to be able to add those back in. So when we take a high level add back approach, we're looking at adjusted SDE, seller discretionary earnings, of $1 million, right? So 800,000 goes up to $1 million. Now we're going to look at the multiple of this SDE. So the way that we're doing that is we're taking the seller's discretionary earnings, we're dividing it out by the $5 million asking price, and it's getting us to an SDE multiple of 5, right? So now that's our benchmark number that we're going to be using when we benchmark this business against other multiples of similar businesses. So we're looking at this health and wellness industry. And what we did was we went in and we pulled the data from simplebroker.ai, where we're aggregating thousands of deals every single week. This would have been a great place for me to just have a simplebroker.ai landing page up so that you could see it. But we aggregate thousands of deals every single week. We're pulling in all of this market information. We're trying to become the most accurate source of data and intelligence for this micro equity market, right? In this situation, we just pulled some data that we have for the health and wellness industry niche, and we tiered it down based off of annual SDE, right? So we've taken the normalized seller's discretionary earnings of businesses that have traded based off of what the SDE is. So we're staging it based off of SDE numbers, and then we're tying that to a multiple that we're seeing at that stage. For example, a business that's trading less than 100,000, they're seeing anywhere from a 2x to a 3x multiple, whereas somebody who's trading more than 2 million is seeing anywhere from a 4.5 to a 6. In this situation of this deal, we know that they're doing an SDE of $1 million. So they're right in this transitionary tier of 500 million and $1 million to 2 million, right? So they're right in this range, and they're asking for a 5x multiple. So they're asking on the very high side of a typical SDE multiple within this industry, this niche at this stage. So it's something that could be asked for. And typically, when you're on the sell side and you're representing a deal, you're going to ask for the most. But for us on the buy side, looking at this deal and analyzing if it's exit ready, we know that there's potentially some negotiation room that could live. So it's not reasonable. It's not unreasonable. It's reasonable enough to continue. And as we continue in our review and analysis of this exit ready deal review, we're going to actually analyze the deal itself based off the information we could gather from the SIM of what's provided and some high level information we could pull in from context to that content from other deals that we've seen. In this situation, total score straight to it is 74 out of 100, which, as you know, looking at our deal reviews, that's not a killer deal, right? That's not like a go put in an offer right away and get this deal done, whatever it takes. But it's high enough where it's under consideration. And there's a couple of things that I want to go into a little bit more that actually, gives enough of a sense of maybe a little bit of a qualification in terms of why we should maybe make an offer and then how we could position that. So from financial performance, client contract, market position, all of the things tied to the core components of the economics of the deal, it's good, right? This is a business that's been around for a while. It's established. It's got a diversified customer base. They got existing client contracts. They got a large enough revenue and SDE to be able to support the continued ongoing operations of the business. It's got a diversified enough team to be able to keep continuity of the business going. What we don't really know is what the true operational efficiency of the team is, or perhaps even more importantly, what the management team is going to look like once this owner leaves, and what the support mechanism is going to look like in terms of the transition from current owner to future owner, right? So those are the things that are a little bit concerning to me. We also don't really know in terms of these additional growth opportunities, what they really are in terms of the tangibilities or viability to actually bring them into fruition. We do know that this is a market that's trending upwards, right? Health and wellness in general, it's on trend. People want to be more healthy, right? People want to have a healthier and more fulfilling overall life. So it's on trend. It's on trend with corporate as well. That's what we want to provide in terms of employee benefits. So those contracts, are viable in terms of a potential defensibility position. But these additional growth opportunities, I want them to be very clear. And here's why. Because when we get into the valuation, what I don't like is the current valuation of this business, right? We know that it's fair within the realm of ask, but it's high. It's very high side. And when we start to think about this deal, what we're really trying to do is justify that price or negotiate up on terms, right? We need to be able to figure things out to make it make sense. And one of the things that would make it make sense is if the growth opportunities are present. In order to buy something that's on the high side, I need to be pretty confident that this deal is going to grow into that price, right? So for those reasons, I'd be looking at this deal skeptically, but skeptically optimistic to the sense of, hey, maybe there's a deal to be done. So what I would do in terms of a negotiation strategy, if I was to go back to this seller and have a conversation, I would know from a terms and conditions perspective, I'm definitely going to be negotiating on price, and I'm going to be negotiating on the deal structure, right? Price is something that, everybody can rally around. We know that when doing these deals, though, what matters more are the terms, right? So from the terms, I'd be looking to take risk off the table. I try to consider, different types of contingencies into this deal that are going to ring fence some of the risk. I'll look for potential earnouts from the seller or seller financing to help get this deal done and keep skin in the game with the seller. I'm a little bit concerned with, what are they going to do next? Are they going to did they figure something else out? Like, have they built this business and they're just dragged down by this business and they figured out like the magic money machine of like 1% of focus equals 90% of revenue, and they're going to go do that next in some sort of innovative way that competes and makes this business obsolete. Like very, very rarely will you see somebody who is building a business up to this type of revenue and has owned it for this long and then is like, let me get out of this thing by selling it to then go do something new. Like that new shiny object, really the opportunity cost of giving this up, right? That new shiny object has to overcompensate for that risk, that opportunity cost. So I'm like very curious what this is. So I'd want to tie them back into this deal in some way around some level of contingency tied to it. It's all about mitigating risk. Also, we know that from the price side, it is on the high side. So we got to really figure out, where the areas of improvement or discrepancies live inside this business so that we can build the wedge equity necessary. Wedge equity is the improvement of business over time. Let's build this wedge, figure out a strategy to build this wedge so that we could justify this price, right, while we negotiate up on the structure and the terms. I would really, really go deep in terms of my diligence and conversation, and as I'm going and approaching this deal around that owner support, around the transition plan in general, right? So again, red flag in terms of the owner and where they're going next. There's a couple of red flags on this deal. I'd really want to make sure that the owner is going to stay involved to be able to support with the transition and the integration and the handoff as me as a buyer. And I want to make sure that transition period is locked up for sure, and then tie it back to the deal structure as well. So there's skin in the game to make sure it's successful. That's probably the most risk that I'm seeing right now from just like the generality of the deal itself. Outside of that, the other risk lives with the people. Most of the risk in these types of deals, especially the professional service deal, is going to live within the risk of the people. So I'd want to make sure that there's a very clear employee integration plan. I'd want to co-develop that to a certain extent within the scoping of the negotiations of the agreement, right? So that it's very clear what's going on and how we can retain and support these employees, these team members, to keep the continuity of the deal as high as possible for sustainability and viability of the deal, right? In the process, obviously, we're going to identify any areas for potential improvements, because we're looking to diligence this deal and we're looking to understand where the opportunity for wedge lives, right? So wedge is built through identifying the gaps that drive valuations or drive ultimately the return on investment of a deal that we're looking to purchase, which is what is a key driver of valuations, right? We want to have the most, we want to get the best revenue, the lowest possible cost, the highest profitability, longest sustainability, highest happiness of team, right? So we're going to identify operational improvements, because these are areas that we can come in and make a difference. And again, we're trying to find these areas where we can justify, the price in terms of the deal, right? We want to figure out where we can build wedge. Same goes for marketing and sales, right? So in order to make this deal make sense, we need to make sure that we're keeping the customers we have. Now, this deal had a large diversified book of business. It had community customers as well as corporate customers. So, we want to make sure that with this founder leaving, like this founder is not the mayor of the town or whatever, and everybody's going with them. We want to make sure that we're able to retain the customer base, the core customer base that we're underwriting the deal off of, like what churn and attrition are we going to see in customers. And then we want to be able to identify those new opportunities and really put a plan in place, a strategy, right? Strategy equals focus is a plan to be able to open up or unlock these new opportunities, right? But before we do anything new, it's always more, better, new, right? So keep more of the customers that we have, right? Do that a little bit better, maybe more contracts, more corporate clients, etc. And then what are these new things that we could do to enhance our sales and marketing, to uplift the brand equity, to increase the money's multiple once we take it over? And that all ties back to the service expansion. So if I'm looking at this deal, I'd come back to it and say, you know what, this deal is a maybe. From our side over at Bootstrapper Capital, where we're providing the most affordable and flexible performance-based capital of choice until you no longer need it, where it's both growth and acquisition capital, we would look at this deal potentially as a partner and potentially get involved, right? That's why this is a deal review that we're looking to do. We don't always want to highlight the Grand Slam deals, right? Because the reality is most deals are in the gray space. Most deals are 70s, low 70s, mid 70s, low 80s. That's where the law of large number trends. And that's what this deal is. So it's a worth a conversation. It's worth an exploration, right? And you as a buyer definitely have a job to do. There's a job to be done in terms of doing your own due diligence, your own deal review. And if you want a little bit of help with that, our advisory team over at Simple Profits works with business owners to be able to diligence deals, work through valuations, identify the gaps, and map out the levers that can actually be pulled in a very pragmatic way, comprehensive pragmatic way, to get a plan, a transformation plan to build wedge equity, right? So that's out there. Till next time, let me know what you think about this deal.